Hello, and welcome to Mind Your Head, a space for people to share their stories, talk openly and honestly about their own mental health challenges, and to give some listeners some comfort in knowing you're not alone. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we record this podcast, the Gubbi Gubbi people. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Indigenous peoples. We honour their enduring connection to the land, waters and culture, and recognise their invaluable contributions they make to our communities. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Dean, welcome to Mind Your Head. It's a pleasure to sit down and chat with you today. It's funny you just said that then, because what I was going to say to you was I feel very blessed to have such good people come into my life. Even the first time that I met you, I felt like this energy about you. I had this feeling like this guy is on a mission. He's operating at a high level. And I never would have been in this situation and, been in this position if I didn't lean into myself. I was always too afraid to show my authentic self. And once I got over those fears and insecurities, all these doors started opening for me and meeting people like yourself. And I've never been a big, believer in frequency or vibration or anything like that. But the more my life progresses the way it has, and all these people are sort of coming to my life, the more believer that I'm becoming. And you seem like someone that's really true to yourself and really authentic, and you're not afraid to show it. What does authenticity mean to you, and how have you navigated that process of, showing your authentic self?
I think like you said there with the whole idea of vibration, everything gets a bit hippie and all that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can be all of that stuff, but it's like how you, broadcast that and show up needs to be your own. So I think if you can show up and just be genuine, be happy, kind of carry yourself in a certain way, that alone should be enough to kind of attract people into you. And people say, oh, it's your vibration and all this, and kind of, I think you lose people when you kind of go down that kind of hippie path in a way.
Yeah.
I believe in all of that stuff and what they're saying, but it's I don't really broadcast that or put that out there. I just be a genuine, nice person that tries to help people when they can, tries to show up, tries to be a good friend, son, all these things roles that you can play. And I think if you do that, like you said, more people, you become more magnetic and more people get attracted to that and want to be around that. And it's not trying to force people into liking or loving you. It's not trying to force people into being around you, but hey, I want to do this because I enjoy this. This makes me feel good. I'm really passionate about it. And then you'll see people see that and then be drawn to it. And then that's how you obviously create these strong friendships, romantic relationships, and all what else comes with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a moment where you feel truly yourself? Is it podcasting? Is it, racing? Is there any sort of point in time where you feel truly yourself?
See, bits of those, but one thing that I'm really strong on is I don't like to be defined by anything I do. And I hate when people would be like, oh, who are you? And then I'm like, well, I race mountain bikes, but I wouldn't say I'm a mountain biker. I do podcasting, but I wouldn't say I'm a podcaster. I shoot photos. I hate being called a photographer. All of these things, they're things that I do, but it's not who I am. So I really have this issue about being defined by stuff, because with racing, for example, I did it for so long and got to a point where I was one of the best in the world at doing it. And then when COVID hit, it all got taken away. Now, who am I? And that's what so many people have in professional sports, careers, relationships. As soon as they lose that thing that they're so attached to, then it's who am I outside of the thing that I do? And you see people all the time get into alcoholism, drugs, depression, as soon as they end the thing that defines them. So it's if you go deeper than that and go I'm a caring person, I'm a loving person, I show up for my friends, I'm all of these, they can't really be taken away from you. So if you stop doing a sport, you're sweet, I've still got all these good attributes that make me a good person. Sweet, I'm a good person. That's what you should show up. And COVID taught me a lot. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, because it kind of ended my career in the fact that when COVID happened, I realized I was so much more than just someone that raced a bike fast every couple of weeks. And which is great. And it made me kind of look at myself differently. And I definitely changed as a person and probably became more outgoing and more myself and authentic in a way. But then I never showed up to racing the same after that. I never had that same fire and want.
I feel the exact same. I went through a period where I never I hated being called a rugby player. Hated it. But that's what I was known for. And all my mates, all my family would ask me how rugby was going. And I would always reject it. Can we talk about something else? All I do is rugby, please. Like, I was always trying to convince other people and convince myself also that I had more to offer than just to play footy, you know? But looking outside in, what was that? I didn't show any of that. All I did was play footy. But I kept telling myself I've got more to offer, more to offer. But then what really sort of sent me down a spiral was like when I actually reflected on, I wasn't doing anything else but footy. I wasn't putting myself out there. I wasn't trying things, but I was kept telling people that I was. And like the same thing with you was just like, I never wanted to, you know, put a label on myself. And then when I sort of stopped playing footy, that's when like around COVID time, like similar to you, that's when I really had to like take a step back and be like, all right, who's Elliot? Like, you know, for 10 years, it was Elliot, the footy player. And now people are like asking me, what am I doing outside of footy now? And I'm like, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't know. It scared the shit out of me. You know, and this was why I started this, because I've always, people always give me a bit of stick for chatting with people, always chatting with people. And I was like, I've always wanted to start a podcast and I don't know how it would go. And it just scares the shit out of me. And I was always running away from fear. Like fear, like defined who I was. I was always just like, if I felt fear in anything, relationships, you know, trying new things, I would just bolt the other way. And it got to a point where I was like, started overcoming fear and I realized, shit, it's actually not that scary. You know, you're not going to die. You know, you feel like you get this anxiety about it. And when you actually do it, you're like, oh, fuck, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And that's sort of like how the podcast came about, was like trying things that scare the shit out of me and trying to figure out like what I actually like, who I am and what I actually like, what I don't like. Like a lot of us try to figure out, that's what I do at the start was going through finding things that I like, but it's also so important to find out things that you don't like and cross that off as well.
It's going to lead you down the path you want to go.
Absolutely.
You got to kind of go into it, realize this isn't it, but you're only going to know it's not it by doing it as well.
Yeah. And that's the thing that held me back, because I was like trying new things and failing at it. That's what held me back. I hated failing. If I'd try something, I would only try something if I knew that I was going to be good at it. And like, how limited is your opportunities in life if you try something for the first time thinking you're going to be good at it? And that, like, I had to overcome that as a 30-year-old. I had to overcome that of like trying new things and failing and looking like an idiot. I was so afraid to look like an idiot. I was so good at footy for so long that I was conditioning myself to looking good and not failing. That as a 30-year-old, that I know I should have gone through this, you know, early in life, but as a 30-year-old, I'm like going through that process of looking like an idiot, laughing at myself, but then keep going. Don't just quit, but just keep going. And then sort of a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever it is, you know, you get a little bit better, I guess.
I was talking to a friend about this and I told her, because she had the same approach. She wanted to get into surfing, but she knew she was going to suck. I just said to her, life's too short not to suck at things. And it's like that progress between sucking and getting better. That's where the excitement is. Like my best years competing and racing mountain bikes was when I was learning. So I was growing when I was like 15 and stuff. And like, I wasn't say I sucked, but I definitely wasn't as good as I was towards the later end of my career. And towards the end of your career, when you get to that very top of any kind of sport, the fun kind of gets taken out of it.
It does.
And this is something that I think a lot of people don't realize when they're beginning something, is like chasing something, learning something, beginning something. That's where all the juice is. That's where all the fun stuff is. When you like mastery is boring. Mastery is reps upon reps upon reps, to the point that the sport that you're doing or the talent, like, yes, you still enjoy it to a degree, but it's not as fun as when you started. It's not as fun as when you were chasing that thing. Like I'd always talk to my friends and family about kind of working out how much effort does it take for me to go 1 second faster down a downhill track. And you try and quantify that into like, okay, maybe that's literally 5 gym sessions a week or 4 gym sessions. That's on the bike for this many hours to go 1 second quicker. Yeah. And it's like when you look at like a car, when it comes to the horsepower and how much horsepower, because obviously the wind starts, the faster you go, the more the wind is pushing back. So it's like to go 10 Ks faster in a car, you need X amount more horsepower. And that's the same with athletes or anyone. It's like to go that little bit more takes so much work, so much effort. And that's when you kind of, it kills it for you, because if you're doing something every single day, like night, morning and night, there's a level of fuck, this is boring now and I want to do something else. And like I read this thing in Atomic Habits the other day. It's like boredom kills more success than anything else.
Yeah, 100%.
Once something is boring to you, once you lose that desire to chase after it, it'll kill it. And that kind of happened to me in a way. I stopped enjoying it to the point where I was like, I want to do something else. Life's so many other things in life that we can do. I don't want to be defined by just riding a bike down a hill
Yeah,
forever.
really.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I felt the same way playing footy. It was just like, I got to training, I was like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Whereas before I was just like frothing, can't wait, fizzing, out the door, let's go to training, let's go to games. And I remember like going to a training session, seeing all the boys, seeing all my mates, and just going, fuck, I'd rather be anywhere else apart from here. And I ignored it. I like ignored the feeling, like gut feeling of like, oh, Elliot, I think you got to be doing something else. And I kept doing what's safe, the comfort zone. I knew that sort of rugby is sort of my safe area. I don't want to put myself out there. And I do believe that everything does happen for a reason. And I end up playing in a sevens tournament that I wasn't meant to play. I got called in late. There was an injury. They called me up the day before and was like, Elliot, do you want to come play? I was like, back of my mind, I was like, dude, you don't want to be there. Like, you want to be at the beach. You want to be doing with like anything else. And I said, oh, yeah, I'll play. Yep, no worries. First game, broke my leg, broke my ankle, full syndesmosis, tore all my ligaments. And I just remember sitting in the car and I was like, you didn't even want to be here. Like, you had no desire to be here. And now the universe has pretty much told you, time to give it up, And like looking back on it now, like I was living down in Sydney. That happened, moved, broke the leg, full recovery, 12 months out, moved to the Sunny Coast, met my fiance, house together, getting married in July, been together for 7 years. It was like all this stuff was sort of pushed me towards that. And I don't regret it because like I love my life. I love how it is, but it took a moment like that to see, like, to make me recheck my life and be like, El, come on, mate, sort it out.
Yeah.
And I went back for one season because I didn't want that to be like the sort of the last season of me playing footy. I went back for one season. I was like, just to see how it would feel. I have a different mindset going into it.
Yeah.
I went back for one season. I was like, fuck this shit.
Saying it. Yo, that's the truth. Exactly where I know that I'm not going to get back into it, but I'm about to go do a race, not this coming weekend. I'm not sure what this recording comes out, but the 1st and 2nd of Feb.
Yeah.
I'll do a race, but it's not to see if maybe I still want to do it. I know I don't want to do it anymore, but I want to retire on my terms.
Yeah.
And go out on my terms, not on the back of a stretcher in America.
Yeah.
And literally what you just said, it perfectly sums up my accident as well. I only want to be there. And I really urge people, if they're in something that they're not passionate about, or their heart's not in, or they're not just have this like fuel and desire, whether it's relationship, a job, a career, like being an athlete, whatever it may be, if you're in something and like your heart's not in it, it's so fucking dangerous. And you can either break your leg and have an accident like that. I obviously had the spinal cord injury where I possibly could have not been able to walk again. Luckily, it only stretched it. It didn't affect it or snap it. But it's that thing where you're in something and you're not fully present in that and you're looking at a way out. Something bad's going to happen, whether it be you get fired from your job, you have a really bad accident, you break your leg, your girlfriend leaves you. It's like something bad will come from that. If like no one else can see it, but like I remember before I had my accident, I was sitting in a chair at the top of the hill and I wanted to be anywhere else. I did not want to be there whatsoever. I knew I had one more race after this. And I remember saying, I was like, I don't think I'm going to ride. I hate to throw my mechanic under the bus, but he's like, just do one more cruising one just to scope the track out. And I was like, yeah, I probably should. So I went down and head first into a tree doing like 35 k's an hour, stretched spinal cord laying on the ground, not knowing if I'll walk again. And knowing in that moment that it was like, this happened because I wasn't present. I wasn't here. I didn't want to be here. And yes, I had retired. So at least I did make the call and it wasn't like I was trying to hold on to something that wasn't there. But just don't go through life with that uncertainty of like, I shouldn't be here, but then you stay in it. It's like, it'll come back and bite you on the ass.
100%. It always does. Not being committed from the very start, it's just going to come back and bite you.
You said that you were going to training and you had that desire and that want. Like, you can't beat those people, man.
Nah.
Like, desire and want will beat talent any day of the week. It's so much more relentless, man.
Yeah, and I remember like hearing someone say, "Fuck, Ali doesn't seem on it this week."
Yeah.
And they never said it to me. They said it about me, and I could hear them, and I went, oh, fuck, it's obvious.
Yeah, you can see it.
Like, it's not just me now. People can see that I don't want to be here.
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh, what the hell am I doing? Like,
yeah.
and it's
Wasting
not
people's
like
time.
I'm wasting people's time, and it's almost like not something that I care about as my reputation, but also it's like I don't want people to go, oh, Elliot was good for a little bit, now he's just fucking around.
Yeah,
I don't want that to be what people think of me the last few years of playing footy is like, oh, he just didn't want to be here. And that's in a team sport, like you're letting everyone else down if you're going to be like that. Let's do talk about that injury of yours. Have you read The Courage to be Disliked, the book? My mate got me on it. I'll read a paragraph out. Our greatest hindrance to achieving happiness is not in others, but rather our own desire to be liked by others. When we try to please everyone, we end up losing ourselves. The courage to be disliked is the courage to be ourselves, even if that means being different from others. It is the courage to take responsibility for our own lives, to make our own choices, and to live life on our own terms. What do you reflect on when you hear this?
the first thing that come to mind is, remember when I said back in after COVID, and the next year after that, 2021, I was definitely had a shift in who I was. And for example, I started doing these random stupid haircuts where I'd like dye my hair pink. I did it for breast cancer at the first raise.
Oh, sick.
Then I had like a green mohawk, and then I had like leopard hair, and just out there shit. Started like just being a bit different.
Full like Dennis Rodman.
Pretty much. So everyone kept calling me that. I was
Did
like,
they?
yeah. I literally was like the Dennis Rodman of mountain biking. And it was funny because if you have a green mohawk in France, it's pretty out there, and like people are going to look at you. But it just made me realize it's like it doesn't matter. It doesn't like, and everyone would come up to me and be like, oh, that's cool. It's out there. Or like, and I remember one of the guys that I actually idolized growing up racing mountain bikes. We were at a race, and he came up to me and he said, I wish I had the courage to put myself out there more like you're doing right now. I'm like, this is coming from someone I idolized. And I thought about it, and I was just like, I'm just doing silly haircuts. And like, I was traveling around a bit. I went to Chernobyl, and like, it was in Ukraine. And
Really?
yeah, I was like, I want to go check it out.
Yeah.
Like,
Sick.
life's short. Let's go tick some stuff off. And I just went and, I guess from the outside, was living this very out there. Like, I went to Amsterdam by myself. I literally just went and brought mushrooms from some random shop on the corner.
Yeah.
I was riding along, and I'm just tripping balls. And I see this like really fancy, nice suit store. And I was like, I need a nice suit. So I go into the suit store, and like, this is like fully and I'm like dressed pretty tacky. I had just like some ripped shorts on, and like, I think I had like a leopard shirt, and my hair is literally the French flag. It's like red, white, and blue. So I'm pretty out there. I walk in, the guy comes up to me. He's like, oh, sir, what would you like? And I was like, I want a nice suit. What have you got? Takes me down. These like $1,000 suits. So it takes me downstairs, and I just get this full white pinstripe suit that they full tailored to your size and everything. So they're tailoring it, making me a coffee. They put it in the bag, and I was like, no, I want to wear it now. And he's like, oh, okay. So I put the white suit on, hop back on my bike, tripping balls, and I'm just riding around Amsterdam, just like seeing where like life takes me right now. And I just ended up at a museum and just went through and just having the time of my life. But it's like just doing those things because I'm like, what do I want to do and who do I want to be? And like at the time, that was me. And then I think if you can live that and be that person, that you can obviously inspire people to kind of live their own purpose in their own life, and they can kind of break out of their shell. And like, I'm not saying you have to go to Amsterdam and do mushrooms and ride around and buy suits and all that, but like, just do what feels right for you. And I think, like you said there, it's like, stop worrying so heavily on who likes you and why they like you. Like, I always think, would you buy that if you couldn't show other people? Would you go to that restaurant if you couldn't post a photo of the meal? Would you do this if someone couldn't see it? It's like, how much of your life are you living off of how other people respond to it and react to it? And once you stop caring about that shit and start living your life, like, guess what? The right people are going to be there waiting. And then you go, oh my God, I keep connecting with good people. I'm like, no shit, you're doing the things that you want to do.
Yeah. And moving forward to that, to your injury, I think about it like, your story and that passage there, sort of, all of us, and it seems like we don't, but all of us have the power to respond to life's moments. We choose how we respond, and you experience such a horrific, life-threatening, injury, and, you're paralyzed for a period of time. How did you think, reflecting back, how do you think you responded to that moment?
In the moment?
In the moment.
In the moment. It's funny, I have three emotions. I keep talking about it, obviously new listeners and stuff, but I went through three emotions. I went through anger. I was angry at myself for, obviously, I had 4 days left of my 17-year career, and I decided to throw myself at a tree. And At the time, like this is me on the ground thinking you've just broken your neck. You can like I couldn't feel my legs, my arms. Like the medics lifted my arms up, they dropped on my stomach. I'm fucked. Like I'm done. So first is anger, and the most angry I've ever been in my life at myself because my life has completely changed forever, and I'm just going to be a burden, a hindrance on my family and the world and everyone else. So angry, and then scared, just incredibly scared that my whole life has changed and so much of the things that I could experience are gone. And then the third one was complete and utter peace because I surrendered fully to that moment. And I had like you think about any point in your life right now, if you're listening to this driving or running or walking, you're probably thinking about, is that girl going to text me back? Am I going to go see my mom? What's for dinner? Blah, blah, blah. Like the list goes on. I had nothing. I was laying there and I could look at the leaves in the trees and the sun kind of on my skin. And I was the most present and most at peace I've ever been in my entire life. And those three emotions would just keep cycling and cycling. And I'd go from angry, scared, at peace. And that cycled for about 20 minutes while I slowly eventually got feeling back and I could start tapping my feet and stuff. But I think just so often in life when something gets thrown at you that's so bad and we try and fight it and we try and fight it. And I just went to that point where I was like, there's nothing, I can't move. I'm in my own head. I'm just in my brain. So what's the point? And just surrendering to things and not feeling like that's giving up, but that's realizing I can't control anything in this moment and stop trying to put energy into trying to control something you can't and getting more stress and anger and sadness put into your body when you can go, it is what it is. As much as I hate that saying sometimes, it is what it is. And let's go along for the ride. And I hope it gets better. And once I can get to a point where I can start putting energy and changing it through like rehab and being around right people and all of that, then let's do that. But right now I'm along for the ride. And that's what happened in that moment. And then coming out of it, obviously try to put as much energy into recovering, but you go into these points where you go into a bit of victim mentality. And I've got this thing now I come up with, and it's like people always say like, why me? And it's like, I change why me to what now? And instead of that why me bullshit where you're a victim and why did this happen to me and the world's against me, it's like, okay, what now? You've just had a spinal cord injury, you've just retired, your girlfriend's just broken up with you, life's hard, what now? And you start putting energy into that, and that gives you the momentum to actually pull yourself out of those holes. But yeah, it was like, to say it wasn't tough. Like I didn't have temperature in my body for about a month. I couldn't feel any heat. So I was just frozen all the time. I was obviously pain all through my body. My limbs were still numb. It was like, I feel like I was frozen. I couldn't feel my toes, my arms, like was weak, barely with my arms above my head.
Is that one of the like side effects of spinal cord injuries is
temperature?
Yeah. Oh,
so
right.
And then to me, I'm like, will I ever get that back? Like that's the scary thing about a spinal cord injury. The doctors are like,
because they don't know, do they? It's a time thing.
That's a time thing. Yeah. Like even now, like I still have nerve damage in my neck and my arm. Like my left arm's nowhere near as strong as my right, and there's like nerve damage through my bicep.
Yeah.
And that's through my neck. Like if I sleep on a bad pillow, like you know about it. Like there's certain things that are just a flow-on effect.
Yeah.
But yeah, the temperature was scary because I was just cold all the time, man. I'd have to get up probably 2 times a night for like at least a month and have a hot shower, and it wouldn't feel hot. It's like hot as you can go. Couldn't feel any of the temperature, and I wouldn't get warm. I just wouldn't be cold, if that makes sense. And this is in like 30-degree heat in Queensland.
Fuck.
So that went on, and just waking up every day, going through that, and just being like, is it going to get better? Like, what's tomorrow going to bring? And then some days, okay, I can feel my fingers again. Oh, okay, I've got some more movement. Or like, I don't feel as weak. It's like little things like that. And it's funny because when you have an injury like that, you become like a victim in everyone else's mind as well. So then I've gone from the athlete, to mountain biker that's killing it, blah, 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 to now you're retired. So you've lost that element of your life. So people don't see you as that. I was in a relationship at the time. We just had literally ended as I went over to Europe, and we were trying to kind of make it work again, but it was kind of on the rocks anyway. So that's like failing. And then obviously lost my health. So then I'd see people, and it was like everyone just looked at me with such sad eyes and sympathy, which I understand why. But then it's like now I'm being seen as a victim. So I locked myself away for a long time and just didn't really be social because I didn't want to bring people down just for my presence.
Oh, really?
So I shut away a lot until... And I honestly, I rushed into creating this business, The Nest, because I wanted to stop being seen as this weak, fragile, broken guy that has just gone through some shit. And I was like, I need purpose. I need something. So like, I think I got this like a couple months after the accident.
Well, you're still rehabbing.
Still rehabbing. I was literally going between looking at studios and rehab in Cooley and around here. Even when I was setting this up, I'd be going rehab, and then I was getting annoyed because the rehab was like coming into like meeting up with people for studio visits and stuff like that, which is, looking back, is so stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I should have just gone to Bali or something, gone on a fucking retreat and shut off from the world. But I thought, what's good for a spinal cord injury? Opening a small business for the first time in an industry you've literally known zero to nothing about. So, but I know looking back, it was just because I felt a bit lost and I needed direction. I needed purpose. And if I could go back, honestly, I would prolong when I did this. But looking back now, it's kind of it's all.
I don't want to say it's all worked out, but it's
worked out.
It looks like it's all worked out for you, really.
It's doing well. It's going well, but putting myself, like, I got really run down and got really bad, like really sick from just trying to like burn the candle at both ends when my nervous system was still shot to shit.
Yeah.
So to anyone dealing with like, or has dealt with a spinal cord injury, like, it's just, you're just weak, and like life's just a lot harder than it should be. Like, remember being in this exact room one night, I think it was 9:30 or 10, and I'm gluing foam on the walls, and I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing, Dean? Like, you were, I think I'd lost like over 10 kilos and just like a shell of who I was. And then I'm like literally 9:30 at night gluing foam onto walls, trying to build a studio by myself.
What were you trying to do though, mentally? Were you just trying to distract yourself from the injury? Were you trying to not be a burden to people? Like, what was the core thing of getting the studio? Was it?
It's like, well, I obviously had the goal to create my own podcast studio and have that. So that was like a goal to get there. But I also just didn't want to be like, again, seen as this injured person. We said before, like, I need purpose. I need something to like put all my energy towards and go into. And I feel like without that, I do feel a little bit lost, and it's hard for me just to go sit on a beach and recover and
sit in it.
Yeah, sit in it. I was like, I need something. I need to be building towards something. But it's funny, man. Like I was saying, like, you only want to rest when you're tired, and you only want to put energy into something when you're bored. So it's like, no matter where you're at in life, there's always the yin and yang of like how you feel and what you want to put energy or effort into when you do want to rest. So
100%. And one of the things I really, like you said before, was when you're in absolute peace, you know, you were just 100% content that this is life. I can't change it. I may as well like sit and look at the trees and look at the sun. Is that one of the biggest learning curves, you know, this experience have taught you, and it brought into sort of life, business, away from the accident? Is this like, control what you can control? If you can't control it, don't stress over it.
I think definitely partly. Also that life can change in an instant. Like life can always, like, there's always something that's going to get thrown at you that is going to alter and change everything. So I think it's enjoying every moment for what it is, and knowing that hard stuff's going to come, and that's okay. And like you said before, like, learn from it, sit in it, feel it, but then get rid of it, pass it on, move on to the next.
Yeah.
And I think that's not just with like hard times, but good times as well. Like, feel it, sit in it, on to the next. Like, I think we said, it's like you can overindulge in your own success, and you can overindulge in your sadness and downfall. So it's like either one, I don't think is good. It's like, it's good, it's happened, it's great, let's keep going. Kind of thing.
Exactly. And something that I realized growing up was that I thought true happiness was not having any problems. So through like teenage years, early 20s, trying not to have issues that come up in my life, trying not to have problems. And obviously it's life. Shit comes up, like you said, you never know what's around the corner. And I just got so unhappy because I was like, why is there always something on? Why is there always a problem? Why is there always something? And it took me a while to realize, like, for me, it's not having issues, it's learning to deal with them. And that victim mindset is, and what you said before is like, not why me, but
what now?
What now? So Jocko, that USA buddy, Navy SEAL, he doesn't say what now, but he says good. I don't know if you've heard that. So when something happens, he says good. So now I sort of take that on now. It was like, when there's an issue happening, or if I get triggered by something, or there's a problem, I always say, sometimes I say it out loud, and Jordan's like, "Why'd you say good for?" But it's like not good that it happened, or good, something bad happened. It's like good. What can I learn from it? How do I attack this instead of going, "Oh fuck, here we go," like another issue. It's like changing my perspective around sort of problems in your life or issues with your life. This is an opportunity to grow. All the things that I've gone through, my mindset now is just like, I'm going to grow from this somehow, some way. There's always going to be growth in it. Yeah.
So what is it? The harder road you go down, the better view you get.
Yeah.
So it's like you climb this mountain, whether that's dealing with loss, heartache, injuries, business failures. It's like, all right, that's you climbing that mountain. It's like when you get to the top, man, you got a better perspective on life. You have a better view. You can enjoy it more. You understand it. Like, how often do you see people that have such a sheltered, easy, chilled life, and you go, they're not people I want to be around. Like the best people I'm normally around have had some really gnarly shit happen to them, and they've been tested to their core, and they've got a better perspective on like how life works. It's like I hate people that get sheltered and they don't like they can be positive and happy still, but they also don't know both sides of like the coin. It's like I feel like I'm pretty open to like I know the world has some really shit things happening. I know there's some terrible, bad atrocities that go on every day, but there's also beauty in the world as well. So it's like seeing it for what it is, the whole picture, and not just like picking the little bits you want out of it and understanding it all.
Yeah. Is there anything that you wish people understood more about your accident? Bit of a tricky question.
Not really. Hey, like it's even funny now because it comes up a lot, which it's funny. I'm like, I'm getting to the point now where it's like, and I'm not saying this is obviously we're talking about it, but it's like then it's like something that had like defined me for a little bit now. And it's even like talking about past issues like I've talked about before when I was younger and went through a period of depression and I got suicidal when I was a kid. And it's like I said that in a podcast years ago and it got a really good reaction because it helped a lot of people seeing someone that was so out there and positive and happy had also gone through great amounts of struggle. But then it's like, again, we can be so attached to that identity of something happened to you. And yes, I've talked about it to help people, but then it's like, at what point is it kind of like, okay, next thing in a way?
Oversharing.
Not even oversharing, but it's just like same thing. And I get, again, with the mountain biking, with injury, with whatever, it's like, I get over the same thing. And it's like, okay, next, even with the studio, people always ask me about the studio. And I'm like, I kind of want to do some new shit. I've only had this open for a year now, but it's like, what's the next exciting thing you can do? Like, I never want to just like, again, sit in that one thing. So
I love that about you.
Yeah, I think it's just easier. Like with injury, I'm like, I don't know. Even when I rode bikes and I'd meet people that didn't know me for riding bikes, I'd never talk about like, and like you said with the rugby, I'd never hype it up. People would ask me about it and I just agree with them no matter what they said. So people are like, it's BMX, right? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, so you're like,
BMX?
Yeah. And but then it makes them feel good because they're kind of like,
oh, cool.
They're like, oh, sweet and whatever. And like, I'd always downplay it because I like when people like me for me, not because I'm good at doing something. And I see that in a lot of people now where they'll change who they are because of who the person is. And I fucking hate it because I'm like, you're not a genuine person. It's like how you treat everyone should be the same as not this famous person or not someone you can get something out of or not something that you can leverage to make your life easier or better or like get a bit of clout or the rub of being around them. And I see it a lot on the Gold Coast, especially being in the studio of like, even it's funny when people come in here and I guess because I'm just like the studio owner, they'll treat you a certain way. And then if they dive a bit deeper or someone else is here that mentions something I've done or whatever, they change how they treat me.
Oh, you notice it?
Oh, I notice it all the time. I'm very, like, I try and be very, I guess, observant of interactions with people and how people show up and react. I'm really, I don't know, from the podcast or being around when I was competing and being around people then, I don't know why, but I really notice how people react to certain people. And then I see when people get new information about people, how then they react as well. So it's like, are you being nice to someone because you're actually a nice, genuine person?
Yeah.
Or you want something from them?
Yeah.
And once you kind of see people that do that, it just helps you navigate the world a little bit better and realize who to trust and who not to trust. Not even trust, but how much energy to give to people and how much to not. Like I've got people that I get along with, they're fine, they're not bad people, but you get this amount of my energy because I know what you're like. And I know you're could go either way at any time. So it's like, all right, I'm just going to limit how much you show up in my life. No, that's fine. Yeah. I don't think badly of you or anything like that. But
it's not a negative. It's just how it is.
Yeah. Like people hold on to so much negativity and emotion and they hold on to it with different people, and it's like, just fucking cut them out of your life.
Yeah.
Like, we live in a world where if you're annoyed at someone, you write a mean comment on their fucking picture, and then you blow them up even more. And it's like you're pushing this stuff you don't like in the direction you don't want. It blows me away how negative comments, like, that is the fuel that pushes most social media comments and traction and viral clips and stuff, which blows me away. I'm like, if you are not liking someone's content, do not comment on it, because you are just pushing that content. Like, I don't know how much I need to screen. If I see someone that's posting something that's like really fucked up or racist or bad, I'll like report it or unfollow them or block or whatever.
I won't create traction.
I won't create traction in it, man. It's like,
I experienced that. I had a guy on the podcast last week. Not last week, week before. His name's Ron. He was ex-criminal. He did some bad things. He was a bad person in the 60s and 70s. He's 70 something now, full of tats. Went to jail, shot people. Like, he admits that his past, he's not proud of it. But what he was a heroin addict. He's 38 years clean. He helps recovering addicts once they finish rehab, do these sort of meetings, helps them in their life. Like, mentors so many people, nicest human being you'll ever meet in your entire life. I put a clip out of him talking about the influence his dad had on him as a kid. Because I was always trying to figure out why he was like this. Why was he drawn to the life of crime? And it was a clip about his dad. Like, young fella went to his dad and said, "Oh, I want to be a lawyer." And his dad said to him, "If you want to fight the cops, buy a gun." Right? That was his dad saying it to him. Fast forward 10 years, he's having a shootout with the police. I put that clip out there, and it was, and we also talked about like Ron's life. It was the clip that went viral, and I looked at the comments, and all the comments were just negative. You're a tool. You're a criminal. You should be in jail. You should be ashamed of yourself. Missing the point that like he's turned his life around.
yeah.
But all it was just like 48 negative comments, and it was the most viewed sort of clip that we had. And I'm like, this is fucking bizarre. But I was like, oh, sick. Everyone's liked it. And I was like, no one liked it. Everyone fucking hated it. But they missed the point. I'd put a comment on there. I'm like, you guys are missing the point. Like, the man he is today, he's walked the path of recovery. He helps so many people. He is the nicest human being in the world. And then one comment was like, yeah, but he did this. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, there's no point even sort of going back and forth with them. Like, people have an agenda. People have a view. And being in like I got rid of social media before I started the podcast. Got the podcast, got to put the episodes out there. Got to get that reach. But it has rattled me. Every day it rattles me, like, how harmful the internet can be. Some people on there are just like, all they want to do is spread hate. They miss the point. They miss like the punchline of what I'm trying to do here. And all they see is like one negative comment or side of a clip, and they just run with it, and you can't convince them otherwise. It's crazy. And Jordan's like, I did an episode about one of my really good Aboriginal mates, and we talked about, how Aboriginals sort of painted in the media and the things you see in Alice Springs, and it's just like criminals, they fucking steal, they do all this sort of stuff. But the episode with Joel, one of my good mates, was like how beautiful the culture is, and how it really like damaged what we did to their culture when we first, not us, but like, Australians and white Australians first came here. And that was what we're trying to picture, is like, imagine that happening right now to us. That's what we did to the Aboriginals. And the amount of fucking hate I got on there, and the amount of racist things I got in there, I was like, oh man, like, rattled me. I was trying to do a good thing, and all I got was like, I bet you never lived in Alice Springs before. You wouldn't have fucking, you wouldn't have, got that guy on. And I'm like, he's one of my best mates.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to show you that, like, I've had more negative experience with white Australians than I have with Aboriginals. But I don't hold them. I don't have a negative view of white Australians. I view everyone equally the same, and that's what's really like I struggle with pretty much like almost every day is I had Keegan came on the podcast. He's like, don't read the comments. And I'm like, but I want to respond, and I want to have like people have different opinions, and I want to allow people to have different opinions. He was laughing. He was like, don't respond to them. Don't even read them. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And then, so now
I was gonna say, I respond.
Do you?
I respond.
Are you a responder?
I respond, but like I stir the pot.
Oh, do you?
They'd be like, so I posted a video when I was in Bali, and I literally just wrote like, day 5 in Bali, like you're burnt to a crisp. You've cut your feet on the reef. You're spending rupiah like it's monopoly money. Like you've got so many massages you can't even count. Like you're just all this just stock standard Bali stuff.
Yeah.
And like happiness levels are an all-time high. Anyway, I did it when I was on a scooter. I wasn't wearing a shirt or a helmet when I was just cruising along because no one really wears shirts and helmets there. It's pretty common.
Bali, yeah.
Anyway, it went viral because everyone was like, put a helmet on, fucking Westerners, you're the reason Bali sucks and all this stuff. No one likes you. I just respond when people are like, no one likes you. I'd be like, oh, my mum thinks I'm all right. Like, just like,
child. It's like silly. Yeah.
Just silly. And then people would stir you up and then just do like little corrections and like, just have fun with it.
Yeah.
And then people just keep biting back.
Yeah.
It's just like, if I was putting something out there that was actually negative that I thought, I wouldn't do that anyway, but if it was like, oh, okay, maybe I crossed a line there, I'd be like, probably wouldn't. But it's like, everyone in Bali is not wearing helmets. Like, I don't see barely anyone at all wearing a shirt. And it's like, whatever kind of thing. But I agree, like, a lot of the time, I sometimes, depending on the comments, like, try and actually have a discussion with someone. Like, one of the funniest things is when someone calls you out in a comment and you don't throw hate back, but actually have a discussion. But like, why do you feel that way? And you talk about it. And sometimes they'll message you privately. And you actually have a discussion with them. And by the end of it, I've had it so many times, man, where at the end of it, they'll be like, good luck with your racing. You've actually changed my mind. Because it's like people want and expect hate. When you get angry at someone, they are almost looking for a fight. And when you don't give it to them, then it's like, what do you do? Like I have this big thing now, and it's like the more space you can create between your reactions is how you have a better life. So it comes back to that whole idea is like when someone throws negativity and anger at you, if you can put space between that negativity and your reaction and actually put thought in that gap, then it's like, okay, now you're actually going to respond from a place of like being logical and actually be able to help the situation. And I feel now with so much social media and all these other things that we put into our life, that's filling that space. So just say you saw something on your phone that made you really pissed off, and then you get to work and your boss goes, hey, you didn't do this. You're going to react with negativity. Where if you can create space, which comes from obviously like maybe whatever makes you, exercising, going for a swim, surfing, all the stuff that makes you, that's creating space between your reactions. So then when something does come in to trigger you, you go, okay, why are they doing that? And it's looking at a place of like compassion and care when someone's annoyed at you or pissed off. And I just do that in comments, man. And it's so funny when someone throws negativity at you and you either apologize to them and question them, and then after about 3 or 4 comments, they're apologizing to you. And you're like, look how quick you can diffuse situations. And if they don't, or they don't care, it's like, it doesn't matter anyway. But I've had a few times where people have left mean comments. I've replied, generally curious to why they're so pissed off and angry. And then they've direct messaged me and apologized. And all deleted comments. And it's like, it's just, it blows me away when you can, you're boosting their, like I said before, you're boosting the engagement of their post. But if I see something I don't like, man, I just don't comment on it. It doesn't matter. I unfollow them. They don't need to be in my life. Like, imagine having all this shit that annoys you on a thing that you carry around all fucking day, and then all you do is just look at it.
You choose to look at it.
You choose to look at it. Like, I always compare it to, just say your Instagram or your TikTok or your YouTube, that's your store. You own this store, and every day you put up photos in your store. Imagine being someone that walks into your store, looks around and go, I hate all of this. You suck. This is shit. I'll see you again tomorrow. And then you come back. It's like, don't go into that store, man.
Like, that is so funny when you look at it like that.
That's what's, imagine walking down James Street and you walk into someone's shop and go,
this is shit.
I hate this, man. This sucks. Everything in here is not okay. That sucks. This sucks. That sucks. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. And when you say all that negative shit, you're also throwing money on the floor. You're helping their business. You're just walking there with a stack of 50s, just fucking throw them out like you're at a strip club, hate on it, give them the finger and walk out.
And you come back in.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow at 5. Like,
that's wild, eh?
Oh, it's so stupid.
And like what you said there, like, it comes from a place that's perception versus perspective. I don't know if you've heard that. It's we all have our own perception of the world. We all see it in our own way. But if we can move out of perception to perspective and like seeing it from their point of view, seeing it from outside of your own sort of body, and not in a sort of hippie sort of way, but like looking at it from their point of view and seeing like, all right, what's going on in their life? Why are they saying that? And not reacting. Reacting is, I think of like emotional as reacting. I try to respond, sort of logical, sort of head. And that's pretty much what you do there. Is just like, it's so easy to react and get pissed off, but you sort of respond have that perspective and go, all right, well, what are they really trying to say here?
Yeah.
You know, and then 4 comments in, you guys are not friends, but you guys are like, oh, all good.
I'll be their friend.
Yeah.
I'm not fast, but I had this thing, and I think I got it from being able to travel so much when I was young and see different cultures and way of living and being. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's different.
Yeah.
And when you can look at that in different situations, where I think growing up in a small country town, there's a certain way you live your life, and there's a certain way that you go through life, and then it's reinforced by the culture of where you live.
Yeah.
And once you step outside of that and you go to South Africa or Brazil or somewhere it's so different, you go, oh, actually, you can live this way. Perfect example for it is I saw this thing on Facebook that my friend shared, and it was about they were eating dogs in China. I think there's like a dog eating festival thing.
Seen it, yeah.
I'm not looking, I wouldn't eat a dog. That's not me. But to me, to then post this and write this big spiel about how we need to stop this and these guys are animals and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, it's not right. It's not wrong. It's just different. And that's how I look at things. I'm like, I wouldn't do it, but like I eat pigs, I eat sheep, I eat cows. If someone looked at me and came and started yelling at me for doing that, it's like, this is my reality in my life. And I'm never going to judge someone for doing something that is part of their culture in their life. If you grow up your whole entire life doing something, and then someone comes in and goes, well, that's not what I do, so you're wrong and fuck you, and here's some anger and some hate comments and whatever else comes with it, you go, man, kind of just stay in your lane and do you, and let the world kind of go on as it goes on.
I know you said before that, you know, not like you don't like talking about it. You know, talking about that sort of injury, and then I didn't even know that you sort of struggled with your mental health. One of my questions was that injury was the darkest time in your life in terms of your mental health, but it wasn't, was it?
No. When I was younger, when I was, I think 11 or 12, I don't know exactly, but one of those years. Yeah, I was, again, small country town, growing up, loving family, loving brother. Everything from outside looks pretty good. Went to a school, very, very low amount of kids. So I didn't really have many friends at school. Wasn't that smart. Struggled with just learning. Just wasn't my thing. So just when you're kind of a young, isolated kid that doesn't feel very smart, doesn't have very many friends, you can spiral out pretty quickly. So yeah, I went through that and just didn't have purpose, didn't have a passion, lonely, felt dumb, got sad, didn't realize I was depressed, went along that for a while. And then eventually one day I was like, all right, I'm done. Don't want to be here anymore. Tried to commit suicide. Didn't work, which made me even more upset with myself that like I couldn't even do that. And I remember the moment. So I was laying in my bedroom and I remember I was just like, you know, when you're just crying and you don't even know where it's coming from. It's just all coming out. And I remember just laying there and I had like a bunk bed and it had like a metal pole. And I remember just like kind of like hitting my head against this fucking bunk bed pole, just being like in tears. And my mum walked in and I tried to hang myself. So I had like a belt and I'd put it onto my bunk bed. And my mum came in and saw it and just like freaked out and was like distraught about the whole situation. And then then we obviously talked about it, found out that I was as sad as I was and everything was happening. They moved me out of that school pretty quickly after that. Went to a new school, made new friends. Around that same time, found mountain biking. Suddenly I'm good at something. Suddenly I've got purpose. Suddenly I've got friends. And then my life altered and went in this different direction and got me to the point of where I like obviously am today. And I liked sharing that story because I had a moment back in 2019 where I had this really profound moment. It's kind of like, again, saying it, people probably say a bit hippie-ish, but I had this out of body experiences when I was at this party. And I kind of looked back at myself and it changed my whole perspective on like my life, where I wanted to be, who I wanted to be around, everything. And when I kind of got back to me, I was the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. Like I felt new levels of happiness. Like I was like, fuck, you can feel this happy. Like it was insane. And it was like the pendulum had swung back from this young, sad, suicidal kid to literally new levels of happiness that I never felt before. And in that moment, I like wanted to share it. And I heard someone say that the last stage of healing is sharing. And I was like, I never talked about it. No one knew about it. I was ashamed by it. Anyway, like 3 days after that party, I got on to my friend Jace McAlpine, who runs a podcast called Gypsy Tales. It's a really big action sports podcast.
Yeah, cool.
Got in my van back in Victoria, started driving up the coast, and best days of my life to date. Driving up in this van, waking up every day, the happiest I've ever been, being like, am I still this happy? Like, is life still this good? And it just kept building on itself and then attracting people in. And it was just like everything was going the way that it should have gone. And then I started meeting new people, and then I got to Burleigh, and I was like, "Fuck, what is this place?" Like, I'd been up to like surfers and stuff before.
Yeah.
When I had a race up here once.
Like, this is fucking heaven.
Then I got to Burleigh, and I was like, "Why don't I live here? Like,
Yeah.
this is the best place in the entire world." And from that moment, I just knew, like, I cut a lot of people out of my life. I changed, I kind of like moved away from like friend groups and stuff, and kind of started doing me more or less. But that pivotal moment of like share, and then I came up here, went on my friend's Jason McAlpine's podcast and opened up and shared it, and the response, man, was like overwhelming, because I think everyone looks at someone that's kind of at the top of the mountain in any kind of sport or career as being like, they see you when you've made it, and they don't see the person that, like, I had to pull myself out of a really dark place and get to that point. And I think once you can share that, it gives people hope that, like, whatever they're going through, how low they might feel or how down they might feel, it's like, no, like, it gets better, keep going. Like, get up, keep going.
And light at the end of the tunnel, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. So I felt like I played that role to a lot of people, and then that feeling like elevated me again. And then from that point on, I was like, all right, I want to try and be that light and show people that, like, life can be amazing. It can also be really tough, but that's what makes it amazing as well. So that was definitely, the lowest point. And then it was funny because when I had my accident, I remember it was probably like a week into it. I was laying in my bedroom in Burleigh, and it was like, I felt, I wouldn't say as low as back then, but it was like touching on like, oh fuck, we're back here. Like, it'd be the second lowest I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
And to look at me now and what's happened and coming back, it's just like, okay, just show people, like, I don't want to just put a spotlight on it all the time, but man, fuck, like, that was a hard time to go through and come out of. But again, like, I'm fucking healthy again. I'm happy. I've got goals. The business is going well. It's like this message that I kind of want to push to people, like, it gets better, keep going. It gets better, keep going. Like, that is such an important thing to put out to people, because I know so many people, especially now, and probably that would listen to this podcast, is men from 20 to 40 to 60 or whatever, that are just struggling because, like, man, life's hard. Life's hard sometimes, really fucking hard.
And sometimes you're in the tunnel, you can't see the light.
You can't see it, man.
And you got to trust it. You got to keep going. And I remember I was probably 18, 19, and I was living in New Zealand. And I was just at the beginning of that tunnel. I just walked into that dark tunnel. I couldn't see the end. And I remember I finally, like, sort of talked to one of my mates. He was in the team about it. And he said to me, I know it doesn't seem like this. I know you're going to tell me I'm an idiot, or you don't trust me. But believe me, there'll be a point in time where you're going to be out of that tunnel. You're going to see the light. Just trust it, right? And I was like, whatever, like, this feels like it's going to be me forever. And I actually said to myself, this is going to be me forever. And then I switched that to, I don't want to be here anymore. And the reason I kept playing footy, and the reason, because I was always planning to kill myself when I stopped playing footy. So I'll just destroy my body, won't give two rats about who I am, the health of my body. I'll just keep partying, playing footy. And when I can't do that anymore, I'm checking out. That was my plan. And it got to that point where sort of overdose, denied it, pretend like it didn't happen. It was just a night out on the piss, full denied it. And then I started to sort of really reflect on what had actually happened. And then never really talked to my mum and dad about it. Never talked to anyone else about it. Went to a therapist, talked to her about it. Still, like, played it down. Like, still didn't actually admit that I tried to take drugs to not wake up. Even now to this day, like, you seem like, very comfortable talking about it. For me, I know it's a healthy thing for me to talk about it, but it's very uncomfortable because I still hold, like, a lot of guilt and a lot of shame about that. It's hard for me not to picture what I could have put my parents through, or my friends through. And I know it's important for me to talk about it. And every time I do talk about it, it's like a little bit of layer of, like, shame and guilt and embarrassment. They sort of, like, gets wiped off me.
Yeah.
But that 10 years later, that guy that messaged that we had a chat, it took 10 years and I messaged him and I was like, hey, remember that, back in 2013 when you said you're going to be out of the tunnel? And he goes, yeah. I go, just letting you know I'm out of it. And he was like, I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you we'd do it. And I went, thanks. Like, it took 10 years, but I'm fucking out. And he goes, I'm proud of you for sticking to it. And that's like the sort of message I speak to a lot of people about, is that, like you said before, you could be so deep in the tunnel you can't see the light. But the message is to keep going and not like think. And I used to think so like years in advance. I used to be like, fuck, I hope I'm not like this next year. I hope I'm not like this next year. And it's just like, that's just the trap. Like, just think about today, get through today, and then we'll think about tomorrow. And that I use that in like, even when things are going good, I don't get too ahead of myself. Even when things are going good, I'll just be like, we'll just get through today. Today was a good day. Let's attack tomorrow when it happens. I'll wake up. I'm like, let's see how today's going to go.
That's why I guess they say we're putting space between reactions.
Yes.
Good and bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Good and bad. It's like the whole like can't call it until it plays out, and it just keeps playing out. And I think to a certain degree, I never. This is the issue. It's like someone that does run on high emotions, good and bad. It's like obviously when it's good, it's great.
Mhm.
Then when it's bad, it's really bad. But then I think I play into that a lot. And like you see someone that I always see someone that's really happy and excited. And I was like, you've gone through some shit, and you probably have some terrible days as well.
Yeah.
That's the first reaction I get. So it's like, it's not being numb to the feelings, but also understanding in the good times it will be bad, and in the bad times it will be good, and being a bit of like, okay, we can be a bit more stoic and just like feel it, understand it, but yeah, not get so caught up either way, and just kind of go through. Like, I don't want to say numb because that's fucking the worst feeling. It's not numb. It's just like regulating your emotions, to like a safe area where you're like, I'm good. I'm a little bit bad. I'm a little bit good. I'm a little bit bad. Not just like, not just these massive like
highs and lows
that are actually more destructive to your life.
It's like having that faith that when you're in a high, just know that there's always going to come a time when there's a low, and then vice versa. When you're at a low, just have that faith that there'll be a high, and not sort of get too caught up in it.
I'd always say, as good as it gets, as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
It's like, as good as something gets, it has an equal and opposite effect to that.
100%.
Yeah. Not being pessimistic, but just understanding.
Going back to sort of school, and then creating this podcast, have you always been a creative kid, even growing up? I know I hated school. I struggled with school. Or I went to a sports school. So when I knew that I was going into the army, I changed all my subjects. You had to do English and maths. I did like social English and social maths. And then I did like touch, tennis, surfing, basketball, volleyball, rugby league, union, AFL. I did it all just so that's how I got through school. Have you always been a creative person growing up? Even kid? I mean, like downhill mountain bike riding. That's creative in itself.
In a certain sense.
In a certain sense.
But not creative in the sense of this.
Oh, you haven't?
The podcast started because I was terrified of public speaking and reading in front of people. Like as a kid, I was that kid in the back, like, don't pick me, don't pick me, don't pick me. Because I just get nervous and stutter and mess up and feel stupid and dumb. And I hated that. Like feeling dumb was like a massive trauma trigger for me. So when I'd get picked to read, I'd go, oh, and then stutter and mess up. And if you had to do like a play or something, I'd be like, I'm going to be a tree at the back. Like, I'm going to be zero lines.
I'll play this rock.
Yeah, I'll play this rock. It's like the rock has one line, like too many. So I hated it, man. But like, comes back to like, if you are scared of something, if there's fear attached to it, there's a reason that there's a positive that can be attached to that if you can actually achieve and overcome it. So we'll start a podcast, becoming better at speaking. And then that was something that was more, I was like, I wanted to do it for me, no one else. I wanted to do this because I felt good doing it. I was connecting with people, and it made me a better person, made me a better listener, and made me better at communicating how I felt. I was more open, like all these things come along with it. But yeah, I wouldn't say I was ever a creative person. And now look, I have a podcast. I'm running a creative studio. This is actually the only creative studio I've ever been in.
Oh, really?
I had never even been in one before. So this like
natural.
Well, it's like
not fake it till you make it.
Not fake it till you make it, but it's like try new shit.
Yeah,
Like, I wanted a podcast studio. I'm like, if I make a creative studio, the flow and effect of having people come in to use the other parts of the studio is like, it's such a cool mixing pot of people coming in, an easy and organic way to meet people. So I thought about it that way. But you can do something you've never done before and still be really good at it. Like, for example, this month I've made more money through this studio than I ever did in a month of mountain biking.
Really? Crazy.
I told my dad that, and he's just like, fuck. And I was like, Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if that makes the studio look really good or mountain bike pay look really shit, but either way, it's like, and this is someone that like, I was definitely could have just stayed in mountain biking for the money, more or less, and got paid to do that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I knew. That's what I was good at. Like
Comfort zone.
comfort zone. Yeah. Like I literally going to a creative studio, like I said, I've never even been in one. I shot a little bit of photography. Fuck, I wouldn't call myself a photographer. Like it's such an unknown, but it's just like, what is this? Bite off more than you can chew and chew like fuck.
Yeah, yeah.
And surround yourself with good people that can help you and push you and guide you. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, going into a business or creating a business, if you have good people skills, you're good at communicating, if you're good at finding people that fill the roles that you can't fill, and just be kind and generous and just a decent person, like the business shouldn't fail.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like you said, like people, I've had several people come in here and they're like, oh, I just like coming in because you're cool to hang out with and
Yeah.
you have good energy and
Yeah.
you're a friendly person. And I'm like,
Yeah.
sweet, because it's like, if you're looking at two studios that are pretty similar, what are the factors that separate you from something else? And it's like, even I know now I need to put more personal branding into this business because I can see how that is like, I know I can show off on camera. I know I have like good energy in certain ways. I know I can sell things and be myself. So I'm like, okay, I need to package that and sell that and not just be someone that like posts a photo of the studio or something else. It's like, no, be relatable, be authentic, be yourself. But it comes back to putting yourself out there. As soon as you put yourself out there, you're so open to criticism. You're so open to judgment. You're so open to all these things that were like, nah, too hard and shut away. And yes, I actually, I started shut away when I had my accident.
Yeah.
When I was doing videos of myself, updating people with the injury, obviously a lot of people were caring and showing me love and affection and going, but then that kind of added to that story of I'm that weak, wounded boy. So I stopped doing it because I'm like, I don't want to be that person anymore. And I shut off, and it affected me more than I thought because I stopped doing stories of myself, which is something I wouldn't do all the time, but more regularly than I actually even to this day. So I hid away, and it's funny because I obviously did the podcast, but this feels like more of a safety net for whatever fucking weird reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was putting myself out there in that. It was more personable, and I stopped doing that because I was worried about not negative comments, but positive comments and like love and care, and it made me feel weak, so I stopped doing it. So it's funny how negativity can steer you down a certain path, and positivity can also steer you down a certain path. It's like you don't want people to like baby you and care for you. It's like, no, I just want to be normal. I want to be the person I was before. So we're in the process of healing, and
and that's something that I really had to express to my friends when they all found out that I was in a dark place. They all started treating me differently.
Yeah,
and they were like, "Oh, you give each other banter and stuff." No banter would come my way because I think I was too sensitive or whatever. Yeah. And they were like, "Oh, you've got to fucking do this. If you got to fucking do that, Elliot, you're all good. Like it's all good, man." And I'm thinking, they're going, "Guys, you're feeding this thing that I'm broken or there's something wrong with me or you got to fucking be different around me." Like, this is one of the biggest reasons why I didn't want to like talk to anyone about it. Because, if they care for you and they love you and I get it, they will automatically go, "Oh, you're all right." And I'm like, I get that. But at the same time, you're feeding that like victim mentality that I try to stay away from. Like, just treat me normally. Give me shit. Yeah. Like, I was in a dark place. I'm dealing with it now. I'm on the upwards. I promise you, like, I'm good, but I'll get worse if you guys keep treating me like I'm a patient that you can't like throw banter at. Like, they wouldn't throw banter at me because I was scared that I'll be like, oh fuck, they're picking on me. Yeah. And I had to tell them, I was like, boys, please, like, just treat me normally. Like, I wasn't depressed. I didn't want to kill myself because of you guys. This was my own shit, like dealing with. I wasn't like going, fuck, my mates fucking hate me. It was none of that. So please just like treat me the same, like I'm one of the boys. Yeah. And they was like, oh yeah, I get that now.
Yeah. Too much banter.
Yeah, like too much banter. You're probably thinking, fuck, how bad's the banter?
Yeah, I was going to say, boys are really hooking in, eh?
They're relentless.
They're just never ending.
Fuck, that's funny. Going back to sort of public speaking, have you? I think when I first met you, you said you were going to a school or something. Yeah. To do public speaking. How was it overcoming that?
I'd done a little bit more of it, and then I think through racing and being in front of like on podiums and in front of people that way, I've gotten better at it. But yeah, I went to a school, and I actually thought it was going to be just like, because I went and did a mountain bike coaching kind of course thing with these kids from a high school. I thought it was just like the class of like 45 people. I rock up. There's a 350 people like assembly with my name like up on the thing, like key speaker, Dean Lucas is here. I'm like, oh shit. Didn't have any notes prepared, nothing. They gave me the questions when I got there. I think they sent them early. I kind of briefly ran over them, then sat down, went over the questions they'd given me, and it was great. It was the first time that I've spoken in front of that many people, and was speaking to them like I'm speaking to you now. I wasn't speaking with fear of, oh, there's this many people, or I didn't alter or speed up how I spoke because of the situation. I just said what I needed to say, went through it, and it was fine. I was like,
Did you surprise yourself how well you handled it?
I don't want to say I surprised myself because I've got this weird thing where, when you know in the moment that you'll be kind of fine.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can channel that pretty well now where I can stand on a stage and like know that, okay, this is going to be nerve wracking, but I got this.
Yeah, yeah.
And I used to have that with racing as well. And it would have been like, just say you practiced not the best, your bike didn't feel the best. I knew when I got to that race run, that's fine. It'll work out. And I could always find that extra gear or extra bit of momentum in a race run. And now I feel like I'm trying to channel that and put that into public speaking or podcasting or whatever. It's like when it's game time or when it's go time, it's like, all right, I can find that next bit.
Switch that flick.
Yeah.
Some last questions to finish off. What keeps you motivated, or does it come down to discipline?
I think motivation comes from, I think, the unknown of having a goal that you're kind of not sure what's going to come at the end of it. I feel like motivation in the sense of just doing rinse and repeat all the time. Like I need to set a new goal, and like the unknown of what it'd be like to achieve that. It motivates me. I hear all this stuff. It's like discipline eats motivation for breakfast, and it's all. And I was like, it's the same stuff, man. It's all the same stuff. Like you need to be motivated to have the discipline, or the discipline. It's like,
yeah,
just get up and just do the thing.
Mm.
Like I think the biggest thing is just come to either back to boredom or lack of desire or whatever it may be. It's like find something that creates the most desire in you, and then if you might not know yourself well enough to put yourself in situations that will keep that going. For example, I don't like training by myself. Go to a class gym. I don't like riding, like road cycling, like get a friend to keep you. Like it's like figure out what you need to create the life that you want to create, and then just craft that. It's like, oh, I don't like doing this. Okay, this person really loves doing it and they have good energy. Yeah. Attach yourself to them. Like there's all these little hacks you can do to keep yourself motivated when you're not, because like you're going to have shit days. You're going to wake up and go, I don't want to do this today, but look, this person's in my corner, or I told this person that I was going to do that, or I can see the future why I'm trying to do this. And if I could create that, pull yourself into that.
I love that. We're so easy for us to make excuses not to do things when really there's always an option. There's always another way to do it that's going to suit you better.
I heard a thing. I love it. I've done it. I've only done it once and it was enough to like get me going. But they said, when you don't want to do something you told yourself you wanted to do, film yourself the reasons why you're not going to do it.
Yeah,
so if you wake up in the morning and you said you were going to go for a run and you wake up, film yourself, oh, my legs are sore. Oh, like I went for a ride yesterday. And like, you're going to sound like a bitch. Like if you look at yourself and you've got to watch that back and go, this is me.
That's fucking pathetic.
That is you looking in the mirror going like, I don't want to do this because of, and like you obviously wanted to do it. You set your alarm for 5 to go for a run and you're waking up now and bed's comfy and it's raining outside or whatever else it is. But it's like, when you weren't tired, when you were being your best self, you wanted to do this. So do it. And I think it's just comes back to do the thing and then find all the things that would stop you from doing that and just get rid of them and putting things in place that will help you get that momentum.
Yeah. And one big thing that I had to sort of alter was keeping promises to myself, being committed to myself, not worrying about what I say to other people. But if I tell myself, Elliot, you're doing this, I used to be like, fuck it. Who cares? And that really rattled me. And that was part of like the downward spiral was like, you can't even fucking, treat yourself with respect. You're lying to yourself. So like, even just start off with little things. Like if you say you're going to do something, do it. Every morning I get in a cold plunge and I'll be standing there looking at it. And I'm like, fuck. And I said, and Jordan's like, you getting in? I was like, I'm getting in because I told myself I'm going to do it. I just fucking do it. And then as soon as I do it, I'm like, not only do I feel good that I'm in the cold plunge and I get out of it, but I feel good about myself that I did what you're
accountable to yourself.
Accountable to myself. And then that filters throughout my whole life is doing what you say you're going to do. And Jordan's like one of the biggest things, one of the most important things Jordan said to me, my fiance, was, I love that I can always count on you. I can always rely on you that when you say you're going to do something, you do it. And she sort of walked off and like probably didn't realize how much that meant to me, that she can count on me. If I'm saying I'm going to be there, if I'm saying I'm going to do something, she knows that I'm going to do it. And I know that I'm going to do it. So that was a massive thing for me.
Yeah, I've had friends say that because if I say I'm going to do something, this isn't spur of the moment. Oh shit, I just had this thought that I want to do something. It's like, no, that's been months, years, whatever. Yeah, in my back of my mind. And the day I say it, I'll probably do it the next day. And I kind of trip people out some because I'll be like, I think I'm about going to Bali, book a ticket tomorrow. They're like, man, you're so spontaneous. I'm like, no, I've been thinking about that. I just don't broadcast everything because I one of my big pet peeves is people that say things they're going to do and never do them because they're getting this false bit of dopamine off being like, oh, well, I'm going to do this. And everyone goes, oh, yeah, you should do that. And you're like, yeah, I should. I feel good now. I feel good now. I'm going to go run a marathon or I'm going to go do be a triathlete or whatever. And you tell people and they get a little dopamine hit because they pump you up. But you're not doing the thing.
Exactly.
It's saying you're doing the thing isn't doing the thing.
You're talking about, I love that.
Is not doing the thing. Like writing down you're going to do the thing, you're not doing the thing. It's like, just do the fucking thing.
And I felt the thing when so I was toying with the idea of quitting alcohol, drugs, everything for years. And I did it 26th of January last year. Didn't broadcast it. We just went to, same thing that you said, didn't tell anyone, but it was on my mind for years. I go, Elliot, like, this is what you really want to do. And the last time I had a drink was a Blink-182 concert. And then we had like little gatherings, weddings, bucks parties, and I wasn't drinking at any of them. And the boys were like, what's going on? I was like, oh, I quit drinking 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I didn't know that. I go, yeah. When's it up? I'm like, never. What do you mean? And I'm like, oh, I'll never touch it again. And they're like, what the fuck? And I'm like, no, I've been thinking of it for a while. When I say I'm going to do something, I do it. No urge to do it. Not touching it ever again. And they're like, oh, well, for your wedding and stuff. I was like, nah. Like, I'm almost stubborn like that. That when, I tell you I'm never touching it, it's like an ode to myself that I'm like, nah.
Do you drink it all anymore?
Nah, never touched it. It'll be, what is it, 5 days until 12 months.
Yeah.
Should have done it years ago, to be honest.
Broadcasting it, hey.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like when you see someone like, hey, I'm going off Instagram for a little bit. And it's like, shut up. Like, just go off it. Just go off it. Yeah, like, you don't need to tell everyone. Yeah. Like, no one cares. Like,
it's that attention thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I definitely get that because then it's, sometimes I see the positive of telling people when you're like, hey, I've got this big challenge I want to do, because some people do motivate you and that does give you a little bit push in the right direction. It can be helpful.
Hold you accountable.
I fully see that. But I could come back to the alcohol thing. Like, I came up here and I wanted to run a marathon just to say I run a marathon. But I just came up and did it. After I did it, I was like, oh, guys, I just ran a marathon. That was pretty cool. But there was no like, hey, guys, look at me. And I remember because I was doing it and it was actually back in 2019 when I came up and I was running past, I think I'd got to like 40 Ks and I was running past my van in Burleigh and I was just like, I was wrecked. And I was just looking at my van like, no one knows. No one knows I'm here. And that's that little thing. It's like, because it's on you. It's like, I could quit now and no one would know. But if I had told people I was doing it, then they're the ones holding me accountable, not myself. And I'm doing it for them and not me. So it's like, do stuff in silence. And like, after you've done it, post about it all you want. But it's like that voice, like, are you doing this for you or for how people would push you or receive it? So yeah.
External gratification, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Some quick ones. How do you fill your own cup?
How do I fill my own cup? I think I like to shut off a lot, like get away from people. I know, pushing myself physically, reading, surfing, good chats with people. I think just, I feel like I try and balance my life a lot with, I love connection. I love being social. I love being around people, but I need to balance that with like, I need to go live in my van and be at the beach and not talk to anyone for a while as well. I feel like I work well in both and not well in just one. So I definitely try and balance my life with lots of people at times and then none at others.
Yeah, then reset and recharge. What do you love about yourself?
What I love about myself, I think like you kind of the fact that I do what I say. I feel like I show up in people's lives and try and be honest. Like a big thing this year, I told myself, it's like this year you're going to have honest conversations with people and take their emotions out of it and say what you feel and what your boundaries are and be solid with that. And I like that I've been doing that more and more and having those, I don't want to say hard conversations, but conversations that may affect someone in a negative way, but you know that I'd rather do that now and not string it along, getting resentful and then throwing a heap of anger and hate at them later on. So it's just, this is how I feel. This is what I want. If you're good with that, sweet. If you're not, like, maybe you don't need to be in my life as much as you are.
I love that. It's not being a nice person, it's being a good person. And there's a difference.
Yeah, being honest. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a very honest person and pretty straight up, and yeah, I like to have a good time.
If you could go back to a time in your life, where would you go and why?
Probably just before I was going that van trip up the coast.
Yeah, would it? Yeah.
I think I'd go back there. Or I'd go back to a lot younger and just start reading books a lot earlier.
Yeah.
That's one thing I always regretted. That actually, it was funny, man. I talked to my dad about this when I was like a little kid and I was learning to read. I'd sit in his lap, and my dad's so caring and loving and like not a bad dad whatsoever. I just want to put that out there. But when I'd muck up a word, he would kind of like slap me in the face with the book. Not hard, but like imagine you're a kid sitting in your lap and I'd mess a word up and he'd kind of like smack me in the nose. Anyway, that linked a trauma to like reading, to being hit in the face. So I just fucking hated books, and I wouldn't read books because it was like this thing where I'm like linked those two together. So I never read. So then I wasn't that smart. So then when I'd like, you know, the literally getting
flow-on effect.
The flow-on effect has started this podcast.
Yeah,
My dad smacking me in the nose with the book has started this. Like,
You can put that in the slogan out the front if you want.
Oh, fucking hell. But
What's your deepest fear?
deepest fear? Hurting people that love me unintentionally.
Okay. We could probably go into that.
You know what I like?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's just, and obviously you don't want to do it, but yeah, sometimes you do just through. And I see other people will hurt me or hurt, and it's like when you see it, it's like you're trying to do you and live your life, and sometimes that can hurt the people we love. So I never want to do that.
How do you define success?
I was actually talking about this morning. It's funny. I think success is getting up every morning and being excited for what your day holds. I think that's no matter what that may be. If you get up and you've got desire and passion and love for whatever you're going into, I think that's you very successful. I think people put it into money and connections and romance and all this other stuff. But it's like, if you get up and you feel good and you're happy and you're excited about, I get to go do whatever it is that I'm doing, like you're a successful person.
Yeah, I've heard the 5-second rule. When you wake up, you got 5 seconds. If you're not, happy to start your day, something needs to change.
Yeah, you need to change something. But yeah, I hate success just gets put so heavily on money and possessions.
100%.
I really don't like that.
Yeah, it's, someone was saying to me, look, person was saying to me, oh, they're rich. And I said, how are they rich? And they go, oh, well, they've got a job that pays $350,000. And I said, yeah, but what connections have they got? Are they seeing their family or something like that? And I said to them, I don't think they're rich. Tell me what they're like outside of work. Are they a good person? My version of rich is like, I think personally, and this sounds whatever, but I think I'm rich because I've got a loving family. I've got amazing friends. I love who I am. I've got a purpose. I love getting out the bed every morning. I know that I'm helping people. Like, I think I'm living a rich life.
Yeah.
And that's what like means most to me at the moment. Last one. How many episodes deep are you in your podcast?
130, I think.
130. What's an answer to a question that has changed your perspective on life?
An answer to a question that's changed my perspective on life. Damn, that's digging deep in the
In the vault.
in the vault. Yeah, I remember. I'm trying. Yeah, I'm going through my brain now. I guess this is one good one. I did a podcast with my dad, and he talked about fear, and it kind of comes back to what we were talking about with fear. It's like it's a mile wide and an inch deep.
Love that quote.
And it's something that looks so scary, but then you kind of go into it and it's not there. And he used to be a rigger, so he'd weld on top of buildings, and he would have to walk over like really skinny metal beams. And he's got a harness on, but he's still, obviously, it's quite scary walking across a metal beam. And he said that people wouldn't do it, and that we obviously worked on different parts of the job site. And he said it's because everyone looks at the fall. They don't look at the beam. So whenever things getting scary whenever you start to bring in all this, like, what if this doesn't go right? Negativity, fear. You're focusing on the fall. It's like, focus on the beam. And you just said, focus on the beam. And I remember thinking that whenever something gets really tough and hard, focus on the beam. Don't focus on the fall.
Fuck, I love that. That's amazing. I got a quote that I actually like that made me actually think of you. Says, it's not about what you have. It's about what you do with what you have that separates winners and losers. Circumstances do not make the man. They simply reveal them to himself. Your response to adversity of life is the real measure of who you are and what you're made of.
Yeah, your response to the adversity of life. I like that. Because that is it. The more adversity you go through, the more shit you have to deal with. Like I said, the view gets better, the perspective gets better, your life gets better, you can connect better with more people.
100%.
So it comes back, it's like, I always think about now when stuff goes really wrong, instantly in that moment, even when I was on the ground in America and I was in that state, I was thinking, like, what am I going to learn from this? What am I going to get out of this? Like, how can I help people with this? Like, it's like almost built into me now. I call it like your life jacket, and it's having that feeling, knowing as hard as something gets, that it will get better. And that's like your life vest. Like, you could be going through shit. You imagine just picture you're out in the ocean and you're by yourself. If you got your life vest, someone probably going to come find you eventually. But if you don't have that, you can sink. And that's when people check out and they sink, because they're like, they don't have that hope that it gets better. So I think it's just knowing that you can be in a really bad spot, that eventually, if you keep at it, it will get better. So yeah, surround yourself with good people. Look after yourself, do the things that you know will make you feel better, and just stack momentum every day. Like, little steps in the right direction can make a massive impact over time. So
love that. I really appreciate you coming on today. I do have a closing tradition. I get friends and family send in questions for the guest.
You know what's funny? My mum almost called you out on this accidentally.
Oh,
like,
shit.
She didn't say about the question. She didn't tell me anything, but she's like, "Oh, how was the podcast with Elliot?" I was like, "How do you know about the podcast with Elliot?" She's like, "Don't worry."
Oh,
and I was just,
shit.
I was like, "Fuck, that's good though, man. That's like that's the stuff that makes you stand out and
I appreciate
be
it.
that host. It's really cool."
Have I got a question for you, Mum?
Mum doesn't do it. She doesn't know work technology. Sorry. Absolutely gem of a lady, but when it comes to iPhones and technology,
Oh, here it is. Yeah, okay.
She's
Okay. 2 questions for you. Will you ever marry and have kids?
This is from Mum.
This is from Mum. She must be wanting does she want a grandchild or something?
Well, I was funny. I was with my grandparents the other day, and there's like a photo wall with like my cousins and my brother, and they're all married and got kids now.
Oh,
And then it's just like, there's just not a photo of me. I'm like, and I was talking to my little niece, my brother's daughter, and I was like, when do you reckon I'm going to make the Wall of Fame, Tessa? She's just laughing.
That's so funny. So yeah, you will like marriage, kids. That's a thing that
I'd
you're.
100%, man.
Yeah,
Like, I love love. I've had a pretty piss poor relationship, I guess, run. Like, partly because of me and obviously situations and traveling overseas and doing that. Like, it's hard to build connection in a relationship when you travel and be away for so long. That was a part of the reason I retired as well. It was I was sick of going away, and you say that I'm going to be away for 3 months and the relationship is never the same after that. Or I found it hard to be the same. And it was just living a lifestyle when you're trying to build real connection, and then the person that you love, you're constantly pulled away from, is hard to maintain. So that was a massive driving factor to want to change my lifestyle in my life.
Do you feel like you're missing out on relationships or experiencing?
I wasn't missing out on them, but it was affecting how they would go.
Yeah.
And the amount of times I'd be away, man, and I'd get a message, "Hey, I don't think this is working." It makes you quite resentful towards the sport that you're doing.
100%.
The best year I had was in 2019, and I was single. Every other time, a part of me was always back home in a relationship. So a part of, I'm getting older. I'm 30 in 4 months. So yeah, I think eventually, definitely, I'd want kids and a happy relationship, but just at the moment,
Get up on the Wall of Fame.
Get up on the Wall of Fame. Grandma would be pumped.
What's your favorite thing about your mum, and what's something not so favorite?
She's very loving. She's a caring, loving, just will always be giving. She's a very giving person and will always help. And to tie into that, the thing that I don't like is sometimes I think she overgives and then becomes a little bit resentful for how much she's given. And it's that whole thing. It's like, I did so much, so I want something in return kind of piece. And I was the same as well. I'd give and give and give. But then at a certain point, you kind of expect something back. So then I caught myself like, I'm only willing to give as much as I can give with nothing in return. As soon as you cross that line about like, okay, now I've given you X amount, I want something back, then it's a transaction. It's not kindness.
Yes.
It's a business deal.
Yes.
So I think sometimes I love the fact that she's so giving, but I think sometimes it's almost that like pump the brakes a little bit and go, I'm willing to give all of this and you can go and do whatever you like and you don't have to show up or call or do whatever. It's like, I'm doing this for me, not for what I may get back.
And that's the tricky thing of navigating boundaries and knowing when to setting boundaries. That's always personalized, individual.
Exactly.
It's up to the person. One more for you.
Am I going to marry and have kids?
Like my mum will ask that too, I think.
Dean, I would love to ask the question to you that even throughout everything life throws at you and the ups and downs that persist in your life, what drives you to keep pushing forward? What's that little thing that keeps you on your path?
From the Loch Ness.
From the Loch Ness.
The man upstairs. What keeps me going? I think just knowing that you just haven't, it's such an unknown with like what life has to bring. And I just think about if I did actually commit suicide back when I was that young, how much of life I would have missed out on, how many emotions and feelings and all of these great things that could have happened. And I think it's just like, going through life with that unknown that we have no idea what tomorrow brings. And that should be the most exciting thing ever. Like, you don't know who's going to come into your life. Like, I'm sure when you met your fiance, like that was just probably out of the, like every time you meet someone new, it's complete, let's see where this path goes kind of thing. So I think being so open to those experiences and new experiences of you don't know what's to come should keep you excited for what's there. Because I literally talked to this girl this morning about how she loves her life and she's so excited about it, but she's like, am I just going to get stuck in this routine of doing this? And how do you kind of break out of that? And I was like, life is a lottery. Like, you don't know what's going to come tomorrow. And I'm like, if you're doing everything that makes you happy, like obviously set goals, set new things, try new things, be around new people. But if you're in like a cycle of doing the things you love, something normally good stems from that and goes from that. So I think it's just, it's just knowing that there's so much that this world has to offer and not getting so caught up in the negative stuff in it and just keep going through life with like a positive, happy mindset. And I know moving forward, like I'm about to get this place, so a guy's about to come on and start managing it and running it. And I know that's going to give me more free time to go out and do a few things I want to do. It's fine. I don't want to talk about it on this because it's one of those things. It's like that dopamine hit of saying stuff you want to do. But I've got this challenge in my mind that I want to achieve. It's going to be a massive physical challenge for me and hopefully inspire people. So I've got that in the future. I want to go traveling, go solo traveling for a while. Mum probably not going to get married or have kids in that, but you don't know either. Like,
well, you never know.
But
it could be a little Italian kids.
But I just want to go and like, explore the world. I kind of kicked myself that when I retired from racing, I'd saved up some money. I had money in the bank. I had no commitments. I could have just gone and done what I wanted, but I decided to start a business. But now it's like, okay, now the business is making money and it's going in the right direction. I can go and run away and have some fun and come back and actually have a life kind of set up as well. So it is kind of, I'm happy with how it's worked out now, but I just like, man, life goes so quick and it can change so quickly. Like you said, with COVID and then my accident, it's like, if you can go and do something now that you really want to do, go do it. Because even in a positive way, like just say tomorrow I meet a girl and we fall in love and that's great. But then, okay, well, I had this stuff that I wanted to do that now I can still do it to a certain degree, but it's going to be different. So there's like, I know there's stuff in my mind that I want to go achieve and go after. And I'm kind of sick of waiting. And it's like, all right, I'm ready. Like, let's do it. So I think, like I said to you, I'm in a point in my life where I want to start like cultivating more knowledge and going in on myself and not probably doing as much of my podcast or like putting myself out there in other ways. But I think it's a time to like shut in a little bit and learn and train and focus on me and not so much about like putting stuff out, but more getting stuff in. So I think that's a part where I'm at the moment.
Mate, so good chatting to you today. It's I know everyone would get so much out of it. You're a legend. Like I said at the start, it's a true blessing when good people come into your life. You're one of them for sure. Yeah, thanks again for coming on.
No, I appreciate it. And I do a lot of podcasts. This is really good.
Oh,
It
appreciate that.
flows really, really well.
Yeah, appreciate that.
I've done podcasts with a lot of different people, and like, the whole time, and I'm like, looking at the clock, and it's like, not looking at it as it's over. It's like, fuck, that's gone quick, kind of thing. So,
Yeah, I appreciate it, mate. Thanks for that.
Let's do it. Sick.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Mind Your Head. If you'd like to support the show, be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really supports the show and helps others discover us. Don't forget to join us on Instagram and TikTok at mindyourhead.podcast.